Welcome to this video coverage for round 3 of the Sinquefield Cup. And yeah, we had an absolutely spectacular round this time, and I'm looking at all games a little bit more closely, but I cannot really do a full coverage for all of them, then the video would be very long. Let's start right away with Vachier Graf MVL against Levon Aronian. Yeah, Vachier started with a loss, or not say a draw and a loss, so it's on -1, while Aronian won his last game against Topalov. Yeah, we have this opening, knight f3 and g3, yeah, often leading to Reti type of structures. MVL normally plays e4, playing very sharp theoretical lines, but once in a while he switches to less theoretically explored lines just to get a game, and this is what we will see here. Aronian plays g6, interesting choice. Bishop g2, bishop g7. This is also my line as black that I play, so interesting to watch. Yeah, the idea of this early g6 is that black here in this position is basically threatening to play e5. So if white goes just castles, then e5, and but black is just having a good center here. It's sort of like after, let's say, d3, knight e7, later knight c6. It's like the Pirtz defense, but reversed, so black is very comfortable. White has to do something about e5, and normally plays c4 or d4. c4 can be answered by c6, by d4, or by taking, as Anand played in the World Championship match last year against Carlsen. Yeah, d4 is the other choice, and after that we will transpose to a Fianchetto-Grünfeld. Here Aronian played c6, interesting little move order wrinkle. You can also play knight f6, of course you can, it's a totally healthy move, which might transpose to our game, but c6 has an additional idea. The idea of the early c6 is if white should play c4 early, like let's say after this castles, knight f6, this is what happened. If white plays c4 now, black, in addition to castles, can also consider to take. And this is a pretty interesting option. Maybe you even get in b5 to cover the pawn. This has happened. And it's not clear if this is really a good line for white. Therefore, white plays knight bd2, preparing c4. But this now has limited white's options. If he would have been able to play c4 earlier, he could have played many other setups than with knight bd2. However, this is a normal line. It's nothing special for black. Here black's main moves are bishop f5 and a5. Yeah, a5 is designed to anticipate b3, so that after b3 black will have a4 available. b3 is the natural way to prepare white's further development. And bishop f5 is also a very normal looking move. It prepares knight e4. Yeah, to exchange some pieces, easing the defense. Aronian played bishop e6, which seems to be a less common move. Only a couple of examples that I found. b3, yeah, this fits in anyway. Knight e4, bishop b2. Now we trade it. Yeah, in this position, now Aronian decided to change the pawn structure and alter the pawn structure, and I'm not quite sure if this is a good idea. I mean, to be honest, I'm questioning the whole thing a bit with bishop e6, but what I'm pretty sure is that what we get in 2f3 move is just a terrible position for black. I'm not quite sure though what he should play. Maybe yeah, well, the problem is, let's say you go knight d7, a totally normal looking move, then knight g5 is coming, and here you don't have a good response. What are you playing now? White is threatening to take on e6 and destroy your pawn structure, and if you just move the bishop, yeah, white is going to just take this pawn, and white wins, just like that. it's not so easy here to play a normal move. Yeah, knight a6 maybe, and this is not a great spot anyway, but you're still running into those ideas. I don't know, these ideas. It does not feel totally harmonious what black's having here. Maybe h6, yeah, try to prepare all that, but white is definitely more comfortable. The bishop is simply better on f5. Let's just imagine this position with the bishop on f5. Then you could relatively easily play bishop e4 in this position. Yeah, put it on e4, maybe exchange it, play e6. But somehow this does not feel right. He now captured here on c4. And after knight g5, you're in trouble. What are you doing with your bishop now? If you move it somewhere, or let's say you cover it with queen d7, yeah, to avoid the double pawn, something like this is definitely an attractive position for white. d5 is possible, or just the capture. Yeah, the idea is that after queen takes, d5 leads to a very promising position for white. You have a big edge in development here, and this knight is especially problematic. Let's say after this, white is immediately threatening to take here. Yeah, we've got huge pressure here. Something like this, for example. I know it's a deep line, but it shows that this is a very persistent pressure. Yeah, let's say here, knight d7, and it transforms, yeah, all the time. Now the rook is on the 7th. It's just not very good. He took on b3, and now white, of course, grabbed on e6, fe, and now queen e3. Good move. Amazingly enough, this position had been reached 2 times before. Yeah, it's just I just think that black is terrible here, and very tough to defend, especially in a practical game. The comp is not so pessimistic. It only gives white 0.6, 0.8 around this range, but it's just totally ugly. Black gets e6 gets taken. White has 2 bishops on an open board, the center, and open files on the queen side to put huge pressure on black. Yeah, he took on a2 now.
Check.
This and this. Yeah, just easy moves for white. You have a overwhelming compensation here. Black, of course, cannot take because of this kind of deadly pin. Yeah, e5, e3, and over. Yeah, he went rook f5. Yeah, the more natural looking move is knight d7 here, but it's also not really, yeah, leading to something great. For example, d5. There are many possibilities, but d5 is the most straightforward. c5, keeping things as close as possible, and then just as a sample is take and rook to b1. Yeah, it's a fantastic compensation. Knight b6, for example, here,
check,
and bishop to h3 coming to e6. This is not a forced line, but it shows that white has a tremendous position here for his pawn. It's absolutely a pest to try to defend this stuff. Rook f5 was tried, maybe trying to confuse matters a bit. MVL went rook fb1. Yeah, here even d5 was possible already. The idea is to take on g7 and queen b2, b7 right away. This is also very strong. After the capture here, one key point is that inserting g4 is an excellent move. Black's rook now is in big trouble. Where should it go? If you return here,
check,
then this line is already
check,
totally winning. d5 was even a bit more forceful, but white's compensation is so great. It's I don't think black can defend this, honestly. Yeah, he went queen b6 now, which did not help, but what should you do? Yeah, now, let's say you go knight a6, for example, trying to develop this. Again, d5 is a strong breakthrough. Yeah, let's say here takes on g7.
Check.
This is the best, yeah, or the easiest way to play. And here, yeah, black will just lose material here. It's not possible to keep all this together. Here he went queen b6, e4, back, bishop c3, attacking the queen. It needed to step back. And now queen b2. Yeah, attacking b7 and forcing b6, and now d5. Yeah, and here we have a pretty forcing sequence. Black has a hard time not to exchange, so did that.
Check.
King here, and now e5. That's very strong. Pushing the center forward, attacking c6. Yeah, here there also was bishop h3, looking quite nice. Let's say h6, and then continue from there. Bishop e6 check, king h7. Also a very attractive position, but I think what white played here was totally fine. Just here and here, getting the pawn. Knight a6.
Check.
And queen b3, queen b6 now won the b6 pawn. But black had absolutely no alternative. Yeah, he continued for a bit, but white's advantage is just far too great. The c6 pawn supported by the bishop is too much. He initiated
Check.
this counterplay with the a pawn,
Check.
but after rook c8
Check.
and rook g8 resigned the game. It's of course easy now. Let's say king here, you just take on a2, rook takes, c7, and white is promoting. Yeah, this was a total opening disaster for Aronian. Somehow this whole setup here, when we came to this position, was not working. Probably here he needs to do something else. I really feel that this position is almost unplayable for black. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think this is just a terrible position. Okay, let's look at the next game. Both players are 50% now, so in the middle of the pack. Next game to look at is Topalov Nakamura. Let's see here, Topalov Nakamura. Okay, Topalov e4, and we have Ruy Lopez. Yeah, Nakamura playing a relatively classical opening. We have the Neo-Archangelsk variation, or sometimes called the Tkachiev-Shirov variation. One of those lines where the naming convention is not totally clear. Okay, c3, d6, a4, rook b8. All this has been played hundreds of times. Here Topalov played h3. This is a totally normal looking move for the Ruy, but in this particular position it seems to be quite a rare move. Only one or two examples that I had in the database. Yeah, it just prevents bishop g4. So it just makes some sense, of course. Black castles. Okay, little thing. Black never can take here because of this little trick. Very useful to remember. Yeah, castles, d4, bishop to b6, rook e1, bishop b7, all very normal looking moves. White now traded and went knight a3. That's one idea of white's setup with an early a4, is to put early pressure on this pawn. Very often black does not defend it but sacrifice it. Here, however, Nakamura decided to play it differently. He took on d4, it went knight a5. Yeah, getting this bishop attacked. The bishop you definitely want to keep. Also, you want to protect e4. It was attacked twice by knight and bishop. So b4, attacking the knight on a3, and this does not have a good square. It needs to return. Does not look great, but on the other hand, black's knight on a5 is not brilliant as well. Rook e8, knight d2. Going through this pretty quickly. There's lots of things to look at later. b3, good move. Bishop b1. Yeah, white should not take, definitely, because this, oops, is certainly a trade that black welcomes. Trading the somewhat sick b pawn against the e4 pawn. So bishop to b1. Now queen to d7. Yeah, an interesting position. Here it's yeah, not clear what white should do actually. Should he just continue with normal rule-like moves? Yeah, it's not so easy. If you play something like this, you're just blundering e4. You cannot really move the knight on d2. And if you cannot do that, how are you going to develop c1 or get the bishop moving on b1? Not easy at all, really. Topalov decided, as he's not the kind of person to shuffle around, it's not so easy to shuffle around, by the way, he decided to play the move e5. Just play aggressively, as it is in his usual style. However, it's not clear that this really is a good move. We see y takes, and now knight h5. This was necessary. After the normal looking move, knight d5, putting it in the middle of the board, white is just taking and wins a pawn for nothing. Knight h5. Okay, yeah, this looks a bit like putting it on the edge of the board, and technically it is. But black has ideas to activate the knight f4, and also sometimes knight g3. And note the pin here. So this is not a bad spot at all for the knight. So what does white do? He played knight to g5, continuing in this aggressive manner. And at first I thought, well, isn't this just a big mistake? What about bishop takes f2? Yeah, in fact, Nakamura could have played that. Yeah, bishop takes f2. At first, we need to appreciate that white is attacking here and here. So there are threats to black. But there is this idea bishop takes f2. Let's look at this. Nakamura didn't play that move.
Check.
But this was definitely a move that needed to be considered. It seems also, after looking at it a bit with the computer, that it is good for black. But the lines are so complicated and difficult that I definitely understand why Nakamura maybe shied away from it. Let's look at the lines. Yeah, at first you think, okay, white must take. In fact, that's not the case. Let's start with white taking. This is in fact not a great move. Queen d4 check. This is of course the point. If white now plays a king move,
checkmate.
One purpose of the knight h5 move is revealed. Checkmate. Yeah, rook e3 needs to be played. And then rook takes e5 seems to be good for black. Note that white's position is here. There's lots of pins going on. The knight on d2 cannot move, no? So you cannot easily protect the rook on e3. It's really a pretty unique situation. Yeah, he probably has to play this move, bishop e4, after which black can take on g5. And this here, yeah, is a funny situation. I mean, so many pieces look offside. Yeah, almost all pieces are unprotected by black, but white is pinned, very much pinned. Here, the knight on d2 cannot move, probably queen b3. And here we can take stock. Black is a pawn up and probably just has a good position. It's not easy to evaluate beforehand, but it seems to be good for black. However, the amazing thing is, after bishop f2, white does not really need to take. He can play king h2. And this is not clear at all. What should black do now? King h2. At first it looks silly, yeah? Why not take the rook? The problem is, after the rook capture, it is in fact white who's getting
Check.
the best of it. White can take here. King f8. Queen takes h5. And this is a huge attack. Yeah, and don't forget that this knight is also hanging. Yeah, it's a little bit, can easily be forgotten. But the big thing is the attack is super strong. Yeah, let's say rook takes. Got knight here and bishop f4 coming. This is in fact, according to the comp, an almost winning attack. It's a little bit difficult now to look at all the lines, but white is in very good shape here. Yeah, bishop f2.
Check.
Bishop takes e1 is not the solution. So what should black do? Yeah, he probably should think about a move like queen d5, setting up a counter attack. All very difficult to see and evaluate in advance. The capture probably king f8, and now a move like knight d to f3. Yeah, this
check.
In fact, bishop g3. Note that if black takes, queen takes e1, leads to a great position for white. Those things are very important. Bishop e1 looks like a totally normal move, but in fact it is not that great. a5 is hanging, and after something like this, white has ideas like bishop e4 or queen h4. And this is a really substantial attack. Also something like this, if we go here, and then let's say e6, white's attack is enormous. Yeah, I've got these ideas. Yeah, a very difficult position for black to play. The computer says just equal, but yeah, it's a different thing. Looking at an engine eval and play this over the board, very dangerous position for black. In this line, he shouldn't probably take on e1, but play
check.
The bishop check, king h1, and then probably knight c4. This is if you believe the engine, very good for black, and the computer is rarely wrong in this kind of messy position, but it's a very different thing to evaluate it over the board as a human player. Nakamura didn't take on f2. Yeah, I couldn't see the press conference. Would be interesting to know why he discarded it. I mean, I understand that it doesn't give a clear picture for a human player, but it's sometimes interesting to see where they stopped their calculation and said, okay, well, I'm not going to go with this. But I don't know exactly due to which position. He decided to play g6 at the end, covering the h5 knight. Now white can play e6, and he did, and queen g4. Yeah, this has definitely activated white's pieces. He's got active knight and active queen, and you also have ideas to further improve your knight on d2. This is definitely, in terms of activity, a progress for white. The position, however, is still completely fine. I mean, black has no problems. Knight f6, getting the knight back in the middle of the board, and rook f8, putting some pressure on f2. Instead, also a move like bishop d5 was a good choice, putting this bishop on a good square, covering here and covering here. A good alternative in order to play knight c6 later and have the bishop centralized here. Also good, but rook f8 was, it seems, okay. Only a couple of moves later, we reach a very critical point. Knight df3, bishop to d5, knight e5. So white is a pawn down, but he definitely has compensation for it. Queen g7. And now white played the move bishop to d2. Around here, it gets, again, very complicated tactically. Yeah, bishop d2. There also was something like this, intending bishop h6, leading to an okay position for white. After bishop d2 here, black had an interesting opportunity that he didn't take. He played knight c6. It seems that here knight h5 was an interesting move. It is, however, as was with the complications before, very difficult to evaluate. After knight h5, the computer suggests, after giving it some time, that knight g takes knight g f7 should be played. That looks weird, but what else is there? Bishop takes f2 as a threat. If white plays a normal looking move like this, black is just going to take here. Yeah, note that now after this, there is this, there is this great move. Very nice, very nice. Knight takes, queen takes b2, and we have a double attack. Yeah, like knight here, rook f3, and on f2 there's also an attack. This is a totally crazy variation, typical computer chess. It is okay for black, but who is going to calculate this? It's very unrealistic. This is one reason why knight h5 is interesting. Yeah, the comp also gives this crazy move. Here I can show you a line that it is giving. It's just totally weird. Takes here. Yeah, looks crazy. Yeah, wait, there's it gets better. Knight h6 check. King f8. Check here. King g7. Yeah, this is not totally forced, yeah, but just a very funny variation. Rook takes a5. Okay. Yeah, if bishop takes,
check.
Get this, leading to a draw. Yeah, draw like this, and we have bishop d2, g4, g5. Those ideas. Black can also, after rook takes a5, can also take here, after which white has the crazy move rook c5, intending also bishop c3. Yeah, if black now takes, we just recapture and have this idea. Yeah, very weird stuff. And now the computer gives as the best move the funny move rook f8, attacking f2, which is answered by rook c2. It's one of the craziest lines that I've seen in a while. Probably here, what's the next line? It's very hard to memorize. Something like this.
Check.
And here we get an absolutely weird endgame, where black has sacrificed 2 exchanges for pawns, and I'd rather be black, but okay, well, this is a totally crazy line, and it shows why sometimes computer evaluations need to be taken with a grain of salt, because, well, who is going to calculate this kind of stuff? No one. Knight h5, however, was very interesting, and maybe right here. He went knight c6, and the problem with this move is that it probably was played with the intention of playing exactly what was done in the game, and this is simply not good. White captured, and now Nakamura just recaptured. It turns out that this is absolutely, probably even lost for black. It seems that after knight takes c6, he had to play, this strange move knight h5 again, this counter attack. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he blundered or played terribly. It's just that this position requires such a tactical accuracy that this is something that only a computer can do. It's very easy to make a mistake here as a human player. Yeah, as mentioned, f2 is hanging. What should white do? Yeah, maybe bishop to e3. Yeah, bishop e3, and here black can take, and here he's okay again. Yeah, all this is depending on little tactical ideas, something like this. Yeah, and oops, counter attack. It's a really complicated position. He had to play knight h5. with this counter idea. This is after rook takes, bishop f2. No? This is the idea. And white also, yeah, it does not have many alternatives here on f2. You can maybe cover this like this and continue from here. It always has this counter attack. This is why also knight e6 is not really good here. And now too much stuff is hanging. d2 and a1. Yeah, super complicated. He went with this, and now Topalov just played bishop c3. Yeah, and it turns out that this move is leading to probably unsolvable problems for black. Now the knight cannot move from f6. This knight h5 idea is out of the position, and probably black is lost here. It's really that bad. Of course, there's a threat on e6. Yeah, so yeah, this move that tries to cover is answered by rook takes. Yeah, if white takes with the knight, then this is not so clear. Probably even that is clear. White can still take. There's some other idea. Yeah, he went rook takes. That's also very strong. Note that this is hanging on c6. He didn't went rook takes. This is a line, but rook takes is also very strong, with the idea to use this this pressure also on the h7 pawn. Yeah, so there's also this idea to take here. Yeah, rook e8 didn't help. Nakamura played e5, after which rook takes e5 was played. Knight d5. He tried this as a last attempt. Yeah, attacking on f2 and looking at the c3 bishop, but white had a good move in reply. Queen c4, setting up this counter pin. Yeah, and this in fact wins. Black now took on f2, but it's just a check. King to h1. Yeah, and now black is collapsing due to the multiple pins. There's also bishop e4 to increase the pressure. He played this move, desperation. Bishop takes, queen takes, and bishop e4. This is the big point. This bishop is also helping in increasing the pressure. c6 hangs and f8 hangs. Rook f6 and rook d1. Yeah, the d5 knight is the problem. And here Nakamura resigned. A very complicated game from a tactical point of view. Many combinations and forced lines possible, and very easy to go astray for both players. Yeah, certainly a very important win for Topalov after the two losses in the first two rounds, and a bad result for Nakamura, who maybe should have taken on f2, but yeah, it's very difficult position. Okay, now let's look at the game of the round. Carlsen Caruana, the world champion with 2 draws, probably not very satisfied. Yeah, he didn't play bad chess or anything, but certainly would have liked to get a win. And Nakamura Caruana with two great wins. So Carlsen certainly eager to try to level this and even this score to get on equal points with Caruana. Let's see what happened. Carlsen playing e4, e5. Okay, yeah, Caruana plays a number of openings, but e5 is one of his main moves. And bishop c4, interesting choice. Normally, white goes knight f3 here, of course. And if he wants to play the Italian game, there is little reason to not do it like this. In fact, one motivation for bishop c4 is that you avoid the Russian defense or Petrov defense. This is not in part of Caruana's repertoire though, so this remains a bit mysterious why exactly bishop c4 here was chosen. Maybe after knight f6, d3 this was played maybe Carlsen after knight c6 really was planning to do something like knight c3 here, sort of giving it a Vienna game flavor. Maybe it's hard to say. Caruana didn't play knight c6. By the way, bishop c5 is also a good move here. This is a move that I play, but not so often chosen. He went c6. This is also well known, of course, and usually the choice of those players who normally go for the Petrov, as they now get a distinct position, not transposing into the Italian game, and therefore also avoiding a little bit of theory. Yeah, Black's idea is to quickly play d5, and we see that after knight f3, d5, Black gets in this move. Bishop b3. Yeah, here it's important, if Black decides to take after knight g5, he's in trouble. Yeah, f7, not a good choice. Yeah, Black has some choice. He can play let's say a5, bishop d6, or he can play this check. A good move. Caruana played that rather quickly. What's the idea? Yeah, one idea is that very often after a move like bishop d6, White is going for this type of setup. Knight c3, put pressure on d5, sometimes supported by bishop g5. And what White wants is to provoke this move, which leads to quite nice position, really. This is a very good diagonal. Maybe you get in f4 later. You can also play c3, pretty good position. So this is some pressure on d5, and this is the motivation behind this move. White now has to misplace one of his pieces or exchange it. Let's say bishop d2. Black can simply take this and say, okay, this has helped me exchange some pieces to make the defense easier. Or White can play, and this is what Carlsen did, he can play c3, and now bishop b6. This knight c3 idea now is not possible anymore. c3 is not in itself a bad move for White, but it has somewhat limited White's possibilities. Bishop g5 was now played, and this is a typical Carlsen move. He has a soft spot for this pin in the Ruy Lopez and Italian game structures. It looks still fairly normal. However, if we go here, bishop h4, queen to e7, yeah, it looks like a normal move. Queen e7, knight d2, knight d7, all very normal. Yeah, we, however, pretty quickly come to a position where I'm not quite sure what White should do. Let us look. Bishop g3 now played by Carlsen. Bishop c7. This is a pretty standard move that wants to prevent knight c4 with a tempo on the bishop. And now in this position he castled. An interesting choice. And taking after some consideration, one point here, one question is, what about this bishop on g3? What is it doing? It's putting some pressure on e5, but e5 is very well fortified. This bishop also is in constant danger of being, yeah, danger is maybe a bit much, but of being exchanged with knight h5, which just gives Black the bishop pair with no particular compensation for White. Yeah, Carlsen with this next move is basically deciding on a very risky business, I think. What he also could have done is alternatively to play a move like h3 to have the h2 square available if knight h5 comes. Not totally sure about that. The thing is, he castled. I will show you what I mean. Now Caruana played knight h5. Not playing castles, for example. This is not a good move. After castles, White has, I mean, not a good move is a bit much, but this is less convincing. White plays this move and has those kind of ideas in the game. Not very comfortable for Black. Knight h5 is much stronger. Yeah, now Black just wants to take this bishop. And yeah, it is very comfortable for black if he manages to do so. So let's say white plays a normal move like queen e2. Black will take and just play something like this. And now this is a position where he really has very little to fear. White especially lacks any active plan. What he can try something like this, but this is just exchanged if everything else fails with the bishop, or black might get in something like g6, king to g7 to cover those squares. Black is not having a huge advantage here, but he has absolutely no problems. Yeah? It's a very easy position to play as black. Carlsen decided on a very risky strategy. He now played the move h3. This is very interesting, but it is very risky as well. The problem is, of course, that black can take on g3, and he should take on g3. If instead he's playing, let's say, castles, then white can retreat the bishop and somewhat question the positioning of this knight. Yeah, there's even the direct threat knight takes e5 here. Black, instead of this, of course, he took f takes. Yeah, and we see that, of course, white has taken lots of structural risk. He's giving up the bishop pair. He's weakened the dark squares immensely. e3, g3, this is all very weak. But what he has in return, of course, is pressure on f7 here with rook and bishop. And he's got this idea, which looks dangerous. In this position now, Caruana decided to in a way go for it, as it was clear what was happening. Castling was possible, but after that, knight h4 looks quite okay for white. Yeah, nothing brilliant, but it looks okay to me. There is this idea knight f5 and knight g6. Black can play something like this, for example, but I think here white definitely has, let's say, compensation. Yeah, we can always call it like that for bishop pair and structure. He's got lots of activity going. Maybe this is debatable. I mean, probably black here is also okay. Caruana, however, played knight c5, and after this move it's clear what's coming. And this was already, of course, planned beforehand when Carlsen played castles. He now sacrificed on f7. He spent a couple of minutes still to decide to play it, but it was clear that this was the intention behind this concept of giving up the bishop here to wreck the pawn structure. It must be something very direct. Yeah, bishop takes f7. Very nice. What happens now? Yeah, the first thing and easy to see is that queen takes is not playable. After knight takes, we have this attack on the queen, and after the queen moves, there's queen h5.
Check.
And black is destroyed. Yeah, something
Check.
like that is going to happen. You must take with the king. Yeah, which runs into the f file. Yeah, knight takes e5, double checks, and so on. Yeah, in fact, here's the first interesting position. Carlsen now took on e5
check.
with a double check. There also was knight h4, more interesting than you first think. The idea here is that you get to g6 just as you got to g6 in the game, but the diagonal here is closed. Yeah, of course you haven't taken the pawn, but still this is a big difference. This might lead to the following: knight h4, king g8 must be played. No, you cannot go here.
Check.
This is again losing. And then knight g6. Yeah, the idea is to play rook f8 just as it was in the game. Queen back. And now white can win the queen with rook f8.
Check.
And it might lead to an okay position for white. Queen takes, knight takes, king takes, and now probably queen h5 going for activity. Yeah, with rook f1 coming, maybe knight f3, h4 again. It seems that after bishop e6,
check.
rook f1, king e7, knight f3, this position is not totally clear. I understand that probably If anybody, black is probably better, but it's not a totally clear situation. White has definitely some play against the king with knight h4 coming. A computer gives black a slight advantage, but this can only be part of the truth, let's say. It's very, very complicated and hard to evaluate if you have only limited time to analyze. Carlsen, however, took on e5.
Check.
King g8 and now knight g6. This is a different thing. Now there is this diagonal, this is open. And queen g5 therefore was played. This, of course, has the idea to go here or here with a counter attack on the dark squares. Black is not defending passively here at all. Rook f8 now was played.
Check.
Looks very normal. Instead, we also need to check knight takes. But after that, black has more than one good move. Even bishop takes h3 is good, but you can also just take here. Yeah, with this. Say e5, trying to close this, and bishop e6. Here we see that this knight is going to get taken, and black still has a good attack here. Yeah, e5 is also a weak pawn. There also was bishop takes h3. This is also quite interesting, put it mildly. Okay, it is better to play this check as Carlsen did. King h7 now. A very, very peculiar situation. Yeah, the rook can be taken in two ways. The big thing here really is that black has a huge counter attack. If white takes with the knight, well, he did that. Let's look at the other thing first. Rook takes. Check. And something like this. Black has two pieces for the rook, but he has the initiative. Let's say something like this, b4.
Check.
Check. And here, this is the counter attack. Yeah, and in this funny situation, white cannot take here because of bishop takes h3. This rook is also hanging, and we also threatening to win the queen. So something like this.
Check.
And black wins. Very tense situation, of course. Maybe here we can look at other moves than b4. But I think black has a good position in any case. Knight f3 maybe. Just here. And again, we have this threat coming. White can try to exchange here to not get mated. But after this, we're probably facing a bad endgame after a bishop move coming. Black has two pieces against rook and pawn. But he's well coordinated and has chances to maybe win the e-pawn in the process. This can only be good for black. This is what Carlsen played. Knight takes h8. And at the moment, you shouldn't forget, he's an exchange up and 2 pawns. But this is in fact not the only thing going on in this position. Black's counter-attack is very, very strong. Here he had a choice. He could also play queen e3, but he decided to play the flashy move bishop g4, which is strong. And also, as mentioned, very, very nice looking. Yeah, developing with a tempo to g4, this bishop. Yeah, what's happening here? The rook is also attacking here. If white takes on g4, just grabbing this, it's easy. Black will just take all this, and at the end he will win the unlucky knight in the corner. Black's just a piece up and wins the game. You cannot just take with the queen. So what should white do? It seems that Carlsen's move is the only one. He played queen to f1. Yeah, here we have an interesting moment. Here black had some choice of lines that all look promising. He played the most spectacular looking move. Played knight d3, leaving another piece hanging on d3. There were other ideas. A relatively simple continuation was bishop e2. I know it looks again a bit flashy, but it's clear that after queen takes rook f8, we're easily winning as the knight is dropping. So white really must play queen f5.
Check.
There is no choice. And after this, bishop b6, it's clear that only black can be better. He has this discovered ideas, so white cannot rescue his knight. King h2, rook takes, and black here is definitely better with 2 bishops against rook and 2 pawns, and the e-pawn is not very strong. This was a relatively safe continuation, and certainly okay for black. But Caruana played the most spectacular move, knight d3, which was probably also good. I say probably because, as you can see, it is a wild position, and maybe even the combination of human and engine is not enough to evaluate it with limited time. Yeah, lots of things are hanging. Let's go one by one. Queen takes d3 was the game move. One point is that if you take this, black is winning easily. That's a check here. And knight f2. Yeah, and this is disastrous, of course. Something like this.
Check. Check. Checkmate.
One way to get mated. Yeah, so white here must even give up the queen. You cannot take a8. This is the first thing. What else can white try? If he takes on g4, there is
check.
Queen f2 check. Yeah, let's say king here. Like this.
Check.
And again, this check proves to be deadly.
Check. Check.
Can first take some stuff.
Check. Check.
Yeah, and so on. There's more than one way to win this. Black is just winning the house here. Probably can also mate somehow, but I didn't see it. Okay, taking on g4 is not working. Yeah, after a while, the comp as the toughest defense suggests the funny move king h1, but this also does not really seem to help. Black at least can do this and play bishop to e6, covering f7, and now he's got all those attacking threats. Something like this is again a safe way to play. Yeah, forcing the queen trade and then picking up the knight at the end with a very, very good endgame for black. He's got, again, the bishop pair against rook and 2 pawns. While this is, of course, a problem. It would be different if those pawns were connected, like this pawn would be on f3. Yeah, this is a big difference. But this way, white has lots of weaknesses and it's just worse. Just one way to play. I'm not sure. Maybe black has something better against king h1. There's certainly enough to investigate. He went queen takes d3, rook takes f8 was played, and now h takes g4. Yeah, we see that at the end here, the material situation will probably be about equal. This knight will get lost, but in the process, white's structure, of course, is amazingly bad. Caruana took on g4. Knight f3, very normal move, trying to improve the king safety. Yeah, the comp suggests knight b3 as being better, but it does not really change very much, I think. Knight f3, queen takes g3, and, went e5, king takes h8. And yeah, around here, maybe white can defend better. It's clear that white is on the ropes. He's got a bad structure, very bad dark squares, and of course the main point, the king safety, is very, very questionable. It seems that in this position, rook f1 is a tougher defense, at least from a purely a technical point of view. However, it is a very it's not a great move to play, or you love to play. There are many ways now for black to continue. He can even consider just taking on e5, but okay, probably it is better to keep pieces on the board and try to continue with with activity against the king. Something like this, for example, can be played, getting this idea, or especially this idea in the mix. The computer gives something like this as a line.
check,
Yeah, very problematic position for white. He can try to stay active,
check,
something like this. And this is, it seems, really more tenacious than the game. However, it's not clear that this will save him the game. After e6,
check,
there was this and this coming. Again, attacking this and also threatening this rook maneuver to get the last piece into the attack. Played queen to d6, rook d8, queen back, rook d5. That's it. The rook is coming over the 5th rank.
check,
Check, king h7. Yeah, rook h5 is the big threat. Yeah, in this position now, Carlsen played e7,
check,
queen h5 check. Yeah, rook h5
check,
also needed to be considered, but you don't really have a good move after this. And the queen here is protecting the knight, and e8 is also threatened. So this wasn't a good solution.
check,
Queen h5 is better. And here Carlsen made the let's say the decisive is too much. He is lost anyway, but he went knight h2, which loses relatively easily. Queen h2 was a little bit more tenacious, but after queen e8 we see that it's not possible anymore to really cover this pawn. Yeah, so let's say rook e1, there's bishop f2, intending rook h5 wins. And if you try something like g4 to cover this, black can pick up the pawn or play this and this as you want. This is a winning position for black. The white king position is just too bad, and on top of it he's got a pawn. He went here, and after this it's very easy. We have the check, takes, and after knight f1
check,
he was losing this piece as well. King h2
check,
and queen g1, and here the world champion resigned. Yeah, okay, king h3, and
check,
this picks up white's last hope. Maybe you can also mate white, but okay, picking up the e-pawn is enough. So a fantastic result here for Caruana, 3 out of 3, and he won against Carlsen again with black. He also lost a number of games against Carlsen, but he's one of the players who definitely managed to beat Magnus quite often. This is a great achievement. I mean, just ask Nakamura, never won a game against Carlsen in classical time control. And Caruana, I'm not sure, but he has got a number of wins, probably half a dozen or so, maybe more, I'm not sure. Carlsen has won also lots of games. He won at the Olympiad, for example, against Caruana with black. But it definitely shows that Caruana is a big threat to Carlsen in the future and maybe in the present, but he does not have a match coming up. He has to qualify for a World Championship match, but at the moment it somehow seems that he's yeah, even if it's only very little points difference, it seems that he's world number 2 really. He's only got a couple of points more than Aronian, but from the, let's say, the threat level to Carlsen, he seems much more dangerous in a way. So fantastic start for him, 3 out of 3, while Carlsen is on -1. So this is not good. He definitely needs to get wins in and better quickly. Yeah, let's see what happens. Maybe he's also a bit distracted by this negotiations about the World Championship match to be held in Russia later. I'm not going to talk much about that. I'm not very much interested in those chess politics issues. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this coverage. These were three great games. The video got a bit longer, but it's very difficult to do something that at least resembles an analysis in less time. Yeah, thanks for watching.